A hotel that refused to impress. There were no grand entrances, no dramatic reveal, no moment designed to steal your breath. And yet, this hotel unsettled people the moment they arrived, not because of what it showed them, but because of what it didn't. In an industry built on spectacle, this place made a dangerous decision. It refused to perform. No curated drama, no visual excess, no effort to announce its worth. It stood quietly, almost anonymously, daring guests to decide for themselves whether it mattered. To understand why this refusal became revolutionary, we need to look at how luxury learned to compete. Bigger lobbies, louder statements, architecture as persuasion. Hotels trained guests to be impressed before they had time to feel anything else. This one rejected that race entirely. The site was unremarkable by design. No iconic skyline, no postcard view. The surroundings were calm, balanced, intentionally ordinary. The architect believed that all too easily became distraction. They wanted attention to arrive slowly, without being commanded. Inside, the same philosophy held firm. Spaces were simple, proportions precise, materials honest but unshowy. Nothing asked for admiration. Nothing tried to convince. The hotel did not flatter its guests. This made people uncomfortable. Early visitors searched for the highlight, the signature moment, the Instagram frame. They found none. Some felt disappointed. Others felt oddly exposed. Without spectacle to lean on, guests had to decide whether the experience itself was enough. The conflict deepened when critics arrived. Reviews struggled to describe the place. Words like understated and minimal felt inadequate. Some accused the hotel of lacking ambition, of hiding behind restraint, of charging premium prices for something that looked almost plain. The team listened and did nothing. They believed the discomfort was the point. Impression-seeking had trained people to confuse intensity with meaning. This hotel wanted to see what happened when nothing competed for attention. And slowly, something changed. Guests who stayed longer stopped searching. They noticed how spaces held them without distraction, how conversations lasted longer, how time softened when nothing pushed back. The hotel was not unimpressive. It was uninterested in impressing. And in that refusal, it posed a question no luxury space had ever dared to ask. If no one is trying to impress you, what do you begin to notice instead? Without spectacle to guide attention, guests began noticing themselves. Their habits surfaced quickly. The urge to document, the need to evaluate, the reflex to compare. In a place that offered no highlights, these instincts had nowhere to land. At first, many resisted. They walked the property searching for intention, assuming it must be hidden somewhere. They asked staff what they should see, what they should experience. The answer was always the same, delivered gently and without explanation. Nothing in particular. This response unsettled people more than any dramatic design ever could. The hotel refused to tell guests how to feel. It offered no narrative arc, no prescribed journey. Time here was unstructured, uncurated, unresolved. The conflict sharpened when some guests left early, frustrated by the lack of stimulation. They wanted confirmation that their choice to be there was correct. Without visible rewards, the stay felt risky. Was this luxury or absence mistaken for depth? Yet something remarkable happened with those who stayed. On the second day, impatience softened. On the third, attention shifted inward. Guests began lingering in spaces they would have passed through elsewhere, sitting without agenda, listening without distraction. The hotel had not changed, but perception had. Staff observed the pattern and adjusted nothing. No added activities, no explanations, no reassurance. The refusal to impress extended to refusal to intervene. The hotel trusted the process, even when it made people uncomfortable. Critics continued to circle. Articles questioned whether the concept was elitist, whether restraint itself had become a new form of performance. The team read every word and still declined to respond. They believed meaning could not be defended verbally. It had to be felt. As seasons passed, repeat guests returned, not for novelty, but for continuity. They described the place as grounding, even confronting, a hotel that removed the safety net of distraction and asked nothing in return. And in that quiet persistence, the final tension began to surface. If refusing to impress revealed something deeper, then what responsibility did the hotel have to protect that depth? Especially as curiosity around it continued to grow, protection became the central conflict, because depth attracts attention even when it refuses spectacle. As word spread, new guests arrived carrying expectation shaped by rumor. They came searching for the secret, the hidden luxury, the moment that would justify the restraint. The hotel gave them nothing. This tension peaked when demand surged beyond capacity. Advisors urged the team to clarify the concept, to guide perception before disappointment formed. They proposed orientation sessions, subtle narratives, even a single defining space to anchor meaning. The argument was simple. If people misunderstood the experience, the hotel would be blamed for their frustration. The team refused. They understood that explanation would become instruction, and instruction would become performance. The moment the hotel told guests what to feel, it would begin impressing again. Depth would turn into choreography. Instead, the hotel doubled down on consistency. Nothing new was added. Nothing was highlighted. Even staff language was pared back further. Questions were answered plainly, without framing or suggestion. The hotel did not manage expectations. It held space. The emotional buildup arrived through contrast. Guests stepped out into a world engineered to capture attention, then returned to a place that offered no hooks at all. The difference sharpened perception. What once felt empty now felt deliberate. What once felt plain began to feel rare. But not everyone crossed that threshold. Some guests left angry, feeling excluded from an experience they believed others were having. Reviews polarized further. Praise became quieter but more intense. Criticism grew louder and more confused. The hotel accepted both as part of the same process. Then something subtle shifted. Guests who stayed longer stopped describing the hotel at all. They spoke instead about themselves, about habits they noticed, about discomfort they didn't escape, about calm that arrived without permission. The hotel had become a catalyst rather than a destination. This was an emotional peak. By refusing to impress, the hotel had forced meaning to emerge without assistance. It had removed every external validation loop and left guests alone with their attention. For some, that was intolerable. For others, it was transformative. The team finally understood what they were protecting. Not a design philosophy, a condition, a rare state where nothing competes for significance, and therefore everything is room to matter. But protecting that state required one last decision, one that would define the hotel's future. Would they allow popularity to reshape the experience, or would they accept being misunderstood in order to remain honest? The decision came quietly, without announcement or justification. The hotel would not evolve to be better understood. It would remain exactly as it was, even if that meant remaining incomplete in the eyes of many. This choice marked the true climax of the story. As interest continued to grow, the hotel imposed limits that made little commercial sense. Stays were lengthened by default. Capacity was capped permanently. There would be no expansion, no interpretation, no attempt to smooth the experience for comfort's sake. The hotel accepted that misunderstanding was not a flaw, but a filter. Over time, the noise around it faded. Those who came looking for validation stopped arriving. Those who came looking for something quieter stayed longer. The space began attracting a different kind of guest. People less interested in being impressed, and more willing to sit with what surfaced when nothing performed for them. Inside, the experience deepened in ways no design intervention could have produced. Conversations became slower, more deliberate. Silence no longer felt awkward. Rooms felt larger, not because of size, but because nothing crowded the mind. The hotel had not added meaning. It had removed interference. Guests began describing the stay in unusual terms, not as beautiful or luxurious, but as honest, as confronting, as a place that did not distract them from themselves. Some said it was uncomfortable in the beginning, and essential by the end. The refusal to impress had done something radical. It shifted power back to the guest. Without spectacle, there was nothing to consume passively. Attention had to be earned internally. Meaning had to be generated, not delivered. The hotel stopped being an experience and became a condition, one that could not be photographed, summarized, or sold easily, and that is why it endured. While trends chased novelty and louder expressions of luxury, this place remained steady, not timeless by design, but anchored by restraint. It proved that depth does not need decoration, and that the most confident spaces are often the quietest ones. A hotel that refused to impress did not lose relevance. It escaped the need for it. In a world trained to respond to spectacle, it asked something far more difficult: to stay present when nothing is trying to win you over. A